is a dollar is a dollar. And if you let those go down, then you really have nothing left. So I'm not averse to kind of bailing out the money markets, which is what happened in 2008. But I wouldn't have bailed out everybody, and I wouldn't have given the money away for free.
Hello, Matthew Kiefer. Two questions. One, what do you look for to know that your predictions for the gold future are coming? And two, if you're not the US or France or Italy or one of the gold superpowers you mentioned, if you're China or someone else, what do you do to try and change the rules of the game so that doesn't happen?
The first one, I don't do predictions. I do dynamic systems analysis. So it's kind of like letting go of the pen. I mean, this is how I analyze it. And again, there's a lot of science behind the method. So I'm happy to talk about that. But I am a big believer in contingency and conditionality. And I think there are a set of policies that could pivot away from some of the outcomes I described. The reason I describe the outcomes is I give a very low probability to the policies. In other words, if the White House and the Congress got together and said, here's the deal, we're going to do a flat tax, no deductions, 15% top rate, and we're eliminating 3 cabinet level departments in total. Some of the, if they're good programs, we'll push them down to the states, send them a check, but the bureaucracy in Washington is over. Get us on a sustainable spending. If that announcement came out, I'd go out and buy stocks tomorrow. I'd be happy with my dollars because I think I'd probably sell my gold. In other words, that could happen, but I give it a probability close to 0. And so the reason I talk about the things I talk about is not because that has to happen, but that's what I see unfolding in the dynamic. And the second part of your question, I'm sorry, what? Yeah, okay, I'll tell you what China's doing. The market in gold is very, very, first of all, they look at the same charts, right? They know they're behind. They know China's basically short 3,000 tons. When I say short, I don't mean short the market. I mean, that's how much they need to get parity. Just go back to the Cold War and Russian, U.S., or Soviet U.S. warheads and parity and START and all that stuff we went through. Imagine the same analysis applied to gold, right? Right now, there's no parity in gold relative to GDP. China is woefully short, so they need about 3,000 tons. The market in gold is very, very thinly traded. Like you can get down to your dealer and buy, 100 gold coins and, for 14,000, whatever, and stick it under your mattress. But you call J.P. Morgan, London, and order 10 tons, and they'll just laugh at you. So you can't move that much physically. You can move paper gold. COMEX Gold, London Bullion Market Association forward contracts. You can do paper gold. That's an inverted pyramid with a little gold at the bottom and a big open interest in paper contracts. If everybody wanted to cash in, could not be done. What they would do is halt trading and send you a check. You'd get a $1 check for your profit or loss, but no gold. So China can't go out and just put out, or they are doing this, by the way. Interesting, they went, until 2009, they officially had 500 tons, and in one day they went to 1,000 tons. They didn't buy 500 tons in one day. They sent secret agents out around the world, and they spent 5 years acquiring the 500 tons in stealth. And what they did is they put it in the books of something called SAFE, State Administration for Foreign Exchange, which is different from the central bank. They accumulated a 500-ton position, and then in a single accounting entry, they flipped it to the People's Bank of China and then disclosed it as part of the reserves as a show of strength. But again, they took 5 years of stealth acquisition to do that. So what they're doing is they've captured their own mining system. China's the largest gold producer in the world, throwing off about 300 tons a year. Total global output's about 2,200 tons. So they're more than 10% of the output of the entire world. And what they're saying to their miners is, hey, your production costs are about $500 an ounce. Price of gold is $1,400. We're going to buy all of your output on a captive basis at $1,000 an ounce. If you don't like it, too bad, we'll shut you down or take you over. So the miners are making good profits, not as much as they would in a free market. And the benefit for China, they're getting the gold. That gold is never showing up in the world market. They're not having to transact in the London bullion market. They've captured their own miners. They're taking it directly and putting it in vaults. Russia's doing the same thing. So people go, oh, okay, 300 tons a year, 10 years, they catch up. The answer is no. Two problems. Number one, their economy is growing so quickly that the 3,000-ton bogey today is going to be 7,000 tons in 10 years, so they're never going to get there fast enough. And number two, their mining practices are totally unsound. They're depleting their mines. They're probably going to run out in about 4 years. So this might be good for 1,000, 1,500 tons or something like that, but I mean, the way you get gold, you use a lot of cyanide. They're just dumping cyanide into the rivers. So it's a non-sustainable process. So the answer is they're transacting off market.
So about a year, 18 months ago, we were coming up with the Troubled Asset Relief Program. That was going to buy up all those dodgy mortgages and stuff, or at least get them off the books. What happened, and where are we?
Actually, I'm actually in that business with some partners trying to buy distressed assets from the FDIC. The answer is they never bought the assets. Secretary Paulson sold that to the Congress as a $800 billion fund that was going to be used to buy the bad assets off the banks. But once the Congress approved it, they never did that. It was the ultimate bait and switch. What they did do was take the $800 billion and give it to the banks, their buddies, and as capital to support the assets on the balance sheet. But the assets are still on the balance sheets of the banks. They haven't gone anywhere by and large. Now, I go in, I'm in this business, and a typical scenario, by the way, there's like $1 trillion of commercial real estate on the books of the community banks. So let's say what these did, the banks made the loans to these real estate developers because they thought they were going to sell them to Lehman Brothers, right? And then all of a sudden that window shut, and they're like, oh my goodness, this is stuck on my books. They've probably marked it down from 100 to 90. We're buyers at 50. That's about what it's worth, on a stretch, 51 maybe. So I talk to bankers every day. We go in and say, well, pay you 51 cents on the dollar for this loan. They're like, well, I got it marked at 90. I'm like, yeah, but it's worth 50. And they're like, yeah, but I can't take the impairment. I would love to sell it to you at 50, but I'd have to take a 40-point impairment charge, which will wipe out my capital, and the FDIC will shut me down. So even though I like you and I want to sell it to you, I can't because I'll go broke. So the answer is nothing's happening. The assets are still there. That's why banks can't lend, because their balance sheets are cluttered up with all this garbage. It's breaking up slowly, but really slowly, really, really slowly. And that's one of the reasons the economy is not growing, because the banks can't lend because they're stuffed to the gills with bad assets.
We're going to take one more, and that's it.
Peter.
Peter Scharfman, Miter Corporation. I'd like to go back to your counterfactual of what you think a central banker should have done, and ask on what basis you would draw the line. To a first approximation, what the government did with General Motors was it wiped out the stockholders and made everybody else whole, and got a lot of criticism for making everybody else whole. But if you aren't going to, if you're going to attack the debtors, the creditors, especially the contingent creditors, where do you draw the line? Where do you say, well, wait a minute, money market funds are in one category, but what used to be AAA bonds are in a different category?
Right. Well, as I said, the central bank is more art than science, and so it would inevitably be subjective. It would inevitably be imperfect. But I think the government is very, very good at toting up the first-order benefits, and they're very bad at calculating the second-order costs. And I would have had a lot more failure. The thing is, with what I'm describing, unemployment probably would have gone up like closer to 20%. And then we say, well, gee, it's 9%. You say 20%. So that's ipso facto a worse outcome. My answer is it's a worse outcome for 18 months, and then you start growing again, and people are encouraged by that. Whereas instead, because to me the counterfactual, not the counterfactual, but the play out the tape, people talk about a V, like they don't have the courage of their convictions because the V is like way down here, but then you get this robust growth, and everyone's saying, where's the growth? The answer is we never had the V because policy truncated it. Go back to that housing bubble slide. Policy can put a floor under things, but they can't make things grow. And so I think, yes, what I'm describing would have been a lot worse in 2008 and 2009. I can't argue that. It certainly would have been. And that's the counterfactual Bernanke uses to justify what he did. But he ignores the cost of what he did. The cost of what he did is 10 years of no growth.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you.